everyone, it's Heather Nichols for Tailored Expressions. It's time to start crafting for the holidays, and I have a set of 4 cards to share with you today that I created with the new Scattered Holiday Blooms collection. This collection starts with the Scattered Holiday Blooms Layering Stencil set. This is a set of 4 stencils. The Scattered Holiday Blooms cutting plate cuts out the images as well as adding impressed details. And then we also have Foil-It Scattered Holiday Blooms panels to add sparkle and shine to your stencil designs. I'll also be using the Folk Art Joy die collection, the Sketched Plaid embossing folder, the A2 Layer Stacklets die collection. I'll be foiling with gold fun foil with my Mini Mink and Foil Magic Shim. For ink, I'll be using Guava, Cherry Pop, Mulled Wine, Wintergreen, Poblano Pepper, and Mocha. I'm using blender brushes and detail blender brushes. I'm holding my stencils in place with pixie spray. I'm using Happy Medium gold glitter and a sponge dauber. I'm adding splatters with chocolate truffle liquid watercolor, Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white ink, and a water brush. I'm adding extra sparkle with gold and red glitter drops. And finally, for adhesive, I'm using multi-medium matte and 1x3 thin foam strips. I'm starting out with the stenciling. At the bottom of the stencils, there's a code with a -1, -2, -3, and -4. This is the order that we recommend you do your stenciling in. I like to hold my stencils in place by spraying a thin layer of pixie spray on the back of the stencils. For stencil layer number 1, I'm using a regular blender brush with Cherry Pop ink, and I'm applying the ink through the stencil onto a 6" by 6" piece of sugar cube cardstock. I'm moving my brush in both a clockwise and counterclockwise direction to ensure full coverage through the stencil. I'm using Mulled Wine ink with a detail blender brush to add shading to the centers of the flowers, and I also added this darker color to a few of the berries as well. This layer is done, so I'll peel off that stencil and then we'll get the next stencil in place for layer number 2. There are square guides on both sides of the stencil design to help you line up each stencil layer perfectly. Layer number 2 is stenciled with Wintergreen ink, and again, I'm applying that color with a regular blender brush. Next, I used Poblano Pepper ink with a detail blender brush to add shading to the base of each holly leaf. Stencil layer 2 is done. We'll take off that stencil and then we'll add stencil layer number 3. I started out stencil layer number 3 with Guava ink, and then I added shading just to the center of the poinsettia flowers using Cherry Pop ink with a detail blender brush. Taking off the stencil reveals our almost complete design, and then we'll add the stencil for layer number 4. This last layer is all of the flower centers, and I'm stenciling them with Mocha ink, and then leaving the stencil in place, I added a layer of Happy Medium gold glitter using my Nuvo Media spatula. Removing this last stencil reveals the finished design. I stenciled one more panel for the projects I'm sharing today, and I'm going to set these aside until the Happy Medium gold glitter is completely dry. While the other panels are drying, let's do a foiled version of this stencil design. I am using the gold TE Fun Foil, and I'm just cutting that to size to cover the design on the Foil-It panel. I've preheated my Mini Mink to a heat level of 3. And then I'm going to put my panel and foil inside the carrier sheet on top of the Foil Magic Shim. I sent everything through my Mini Mink machine and then let it cool just a little bit before I peeled the foil off to reveal the foiled design on the panel. I stenciled the foil panel in the same colors that I stenciled the other ones without doing the Happy Medium glitter because we already have sparkle and shine with the foil. Next, I'm taking the Scattered Holiday Blooms cutting plate and I'm cutting out the flowers on one of the panels. Line up the square guides on the die with the square guides on the sides of your design. I used several pieces of Scotch removable tape to hold the cutting plate in place and then sent it through my die cut machine. The cutting plate cuts out all of the individual elements on the stencil design, as well as adding detailed impressions onto each one. The die also cuts the inner ring of petals on the poinsettia, and you can pop these up for extra dimension. You can also use the cutting plate without the stencil design. I used the cutting plate to cut out the flowers and leaves from Cherry Pop, Guava, and Poblano Pepper cardstock. Here's a look at all of the different ways that I created elements with the Scattered Holiday Blooms collection. I have the stenciled panel, both on its own and also with the Foil-It panel. I have the stenciled flowers and leaves that are cut out with the coordinating cutting plate, and I have the flowers and leaves that are cut out with just the cutting plate. Before I start creating my final projects, I am adding splatters to all of my elements using Chocolate Truffle Liquid Watercolor and Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed-Proof White ink. I pick up the color on a water brush and then tap the brush on my finger to add the splatters to the elements. Next, I cut out the word joy for all of my cards using the Folk Art Joy die collection from Toffee, Sugar Cube, and Cherry Pop cardstock. To add a touch of sparkle to the letters, I used a sponge dauber with Happy Medium gold glitter, and I coated the front of each letter. I let the Happy Medium dry completely, and I really love how these turned out. 2 of my cards will have toffee cardstock backgrounds that are embossed with the Sketched Plaid embossing folder. I cut down my stenciled and foiled backgrounds using a die from the A2 Layer Stacklets die collection. And now it's time to put these cards together. I'm starting with the card with the all-over stenciled background. So the joy sentiment stands out on the busy background. I'm adding the letters to a 1.5 inch strip of vellum. I folded over an end of the strip, used a bone folder for a nice sharp crease, and then adhered that to the back of the panel. I folded the vellum strip around the other side of the panel. Mine was a little long, so I had to trim it with scissors. Used a bone folder again for a nice sharp crease, and adhered the vellum strip to the back of the panel. Then I adhered the letters to spell out the word joy to the vellum strip using liquid adhesive. I used my magnets on my glass mat to hold things in place while they dried. I did the same thing on the card with the panel that is foiled and stenciled, this time with the horizontal format. I used a ruler to help me center the letters on the vellum strip. This next card features the stenciled and die cut elements. I adhered the letters in place. Next, the poinsettias are adhered with foam adhesive just in the center. This allows those die-cut petals to pop up a little. All of the other leaves and berries and flowers are adhered directly to the background, either with my tape runner or a liquid adhesive. And then on this last card, I again adhered the letters in place. I adhered the poinsettias with foam adhesive, like I did on the previous card, to just the centers so that the petals can pop up. And then I adhered the rest of the elements either with my tape runner or with a liquid adhesive. Next, I added all of the panels to card bases using the 1x3 foam strips. And now for some final touches. On the 2 cards with the all-over stenciled backgrounds, I'm adding holly leaves to each side of the joy sentiments. I'm using the holly leaves that are stenciled and cut out and adding a red glitter drop to the berry part. For the card with the white letters and the die-cut flowers, I'm adding gold glitter drops to the centers of the poinsettias, and I scattered small gold glitter drops throughout the rest of the design. And for this last card, I scattered smaller sized gold glitter drops throughout the flowers and holly leaves. Here's a closer look at all 4 cards that I created today using the Scattered Holiday Blooms collection. I am so excited about all of the different things that you can create with the stencils, cutting plate, and foilet panels. Do you have a favorite of the cards that I created today? I hope you enjoyed learning how to create these cards, and I hope you're inspired to do some holiday crafting. You can find the Scattered Holiday Blooms collection and the other supplies that I used to create these cards in the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our crafty videos.